Today we are starting our first of 3 in our kindergarten series. We know that this time of year can be a lot as you're getting ready for kindergarten, but also if you have a preschooler who is going to be in kindergarten starting in 2023, which seems like forever away, but it does creep up fast. So hopefully this training and then some of the other workshops we have will help prepare you for that transition. So we're going to get started. My name is Jamie Lassane Spears. I am the Family Engagement Specialist at Child Care Answers, and my email is on the screen. If you have any questions that are specific to you and your child, please feel free to email me. Love to be able to support you in that. We are a part of your child care resource and referral network here in Indiana, but we serve specifically Hamilton, Hendricks, and Marion counties. And there are 5 across the state. If you are from a different county, we can connect you to your local CCR&R and we can support you there. We are very active on social media. You might have even found us on social media. I found this workshop through social media. So please, if you follow us, there's a lot of information there that will be very helpful. We also have a TikTok account, which you can find through our other social media outlets as well. I think it's Child Care Answers IN is our TikTok account. Just a lot of ideas. And you're going to see that sprinkled in throughout this workshop tonight, just to keep it a little bit more exciting for us. So we're going to get started. This is kind of a rhetorical question. What age do you think or do you believe that kindergarten readiness and learning begins? So it starts at birth. I know oftentimes we think of kindergarten readiness starting at age 3 or 4, just because that's the time we as adults start thinking about, okay, what's the next step for kindergarten? But actually, we have begun with our children laying that foundation for kindergarten as early as birth and from day 1. So before you worry about any of that, just know that you've been doing this in so many natural ways, just developing your child's readiness for kindergarten. And we're going to talk a little bit more about what that looks like and how you have been. Great. So there are so many different skills or development areas that kindergarten teachers are really looking for. And those really fall into 4 different areas or domains. I might call them camps, but they fall into 4 different domains. And in that, you have your language skills, you have your social emotional skills, you have your motor skills, and then your cognitive skills as well. There are some more, but these are the really big ones that we're going to talk about tonight. So for example, you're looking at your language skills. From birth, you've been responding to your infant's babble. You've been talking with your child. And as a toddler, you start using descriptive words like the big blue truck. So the truck is really big and it's blue. And that's giving them more language and ideas of how to use the language. And then you have your social emotional skills. And with your infant, that really just starts with soothing and comforting your infant as they are crying or in need, and like with their cribs and or food. And then you have your toddler as they're growing older, they're getting those really big emotions that might not make sense to us and often don't. I have a 14-month-old right now, and she is really exploring those big emotions. And it challenges me to respond calmly sometimes, but when we do, we're teaching them a lot about how to manage our emotions. And then you have your motor skills, and these are your big motor skills like jumping and running, and then your little motor skills or your fine motor skills, and that's like writing and manipulating things with your hands. And we start that as early as tummy time from day 1. And then we also encourage that as we are giving our children crayons or maybe a paintbrush, and they're just playing around with scribbling. So again, we're already preparing our children for kindergarten from day 1. And then lastly, it's the cognitive skills. And we'll talk a little bit more about these, but this is your traditional skills that you might think of when you think of kindergarten readiness. So these are your math skills and also your literacy skills, your 1, 2, 3s and ABCs is what I typically say. And we start this again with infancies. With infancy, looking at toys under a blanket, trying to find things under a blanket. That's sparking some thinking with your youngest learners. And then also with your toddlers, you're looking at those cause and effect toys like the rings, the stacking rings, and or those like shapes that you can fit inside. The square goes in this square hole, the circle goes in the circle hole kind of toys. So all of that helps with this kindergarten readiness. So at the end of the day, it's all about experiences, and these experiences don't need to cost a lot of money. And like I said, you're probably doing all of these already. And so today, what I wanted to do is take some time going over a couple of the skill sets that kindergarten teachers are really looking for, but then also just giving you some ideas on how you can support them at home in easy, natural ways. All right, we're going to go ahead then and dive on in. Like I said, there's those 4 camps or domains that we're going to focus on today. And the first one is those language skills. So the fun fact about language skills is that this is all about talking with your child, which we do all the time, or they talk to us all the time, maybe is one way to put it. But some of the skills that teachers are really, really looking for is this idea that can they be understood most of the time? With understanding, they are still 4 and there is some development to happen with speech. But can they at least express a need and be able to do that clearly? And then with that, how are they expressing this need? Is it in a way that I can understand? Is it in a way that fits within the expectations in the classroom, which, sometimes it's something that is learned over time, and that's what the kindergarten teachers do. They step in and they, teach them the rules of the classroom and what the expectations are. But being able to express those needs and wants in that way is something that teachers are looking for. Also, this idea of understanding directions, and this starts with at least 2-step directions. So that idea is, can you go get the red truck and put it in the bin? So those are 2 things the child has to do, which I think at times as adults, we give maybe like 4 or 5-step directions without even noticing it. So just being mindful of what you're asking your child to do and how you're doing it. I always make sure if I'm giving multiple steps to use my finger and just say like, you're going to put on your shoes and then get on your coat. That's 2 things. And so helping them understand and associating it with like maybe counting on their hands or something visual helps a lot with that. We're also looking at the ability to make comparisons between objects and relationships. So this one's big, this one's little, and just being able to vocalize that. It might not be in the correct vocabulary all the time, which is okay because they're still learning all of those comparisons and that's appropriate. But trying to help them understand and be able to vocalize is something that teachers are looking for. And then just being able to repeat familiar stories and songs, to retell a story or even a favorite show. So what this looks like and what it could look like is making comparison between snacks and toys as you're playing or having snacks, or even as you're eating a meal. Oh, I see that you have the hamburger, I got the salad, and talking about the difference between the 2. Practicing those 2-step directions in play is really easy and it's non-confrontational. So you can be playing with your child and say like, oh, look, my car parked in the parking lot and then it went down the ramp. Can your car park in the lot and go down the ramp? So you're giving them 2-step directions, but it's all through play and it's fun as opposed to go put on your shoes and go do this and trying to get practice in during those like maybe stressful transitions. And then you're also just giving choices so that they can express their needs and wants. Do you want the blueberries or the raspberries? And letting them say like, the raspberries. I like raspberries. I want the raspberries. So they're having that language to practice that. Also, just retelling a simple story. And, we all watch shows with our children. And just after a show, maybe ask them, what was the show about? And trying to get them to retell even a show. It just helps practice that simple retell and language skills. So we're going to watch a quick TikTok here just about language development. On all these slides, you're going to see a QR code and then a web page. And those are our resources for this topic. So we have a lot of activities and ideas outside of here. And I would love for you to have a moment in your own time to be able to look through them. So this is just one opportunity if you want to look at it and look at it a little bit more. So we're going to watch this TikTok here, and this is just an activity to do with your preschooler. I love this activity. This was one of my favorite things to do as a teacher, is to put an object in a cloth bag, and then you give the child the bag and they get to feel it and try to see what is inside. So I'm going to go ahead and play. Blocks. Here, I'm gonna give you a clue, okay? It has to do with what we saw today. What is it? Can you see so? Yeah, you can open it.
Jump it out. Does it have fins or no fins?
No fins. It lives on land, remember? Awesome. Well, that was one thing I like to do with my students, and then I really am excited to do that kind of thing with my child as well. So the next thing is social emotional skills, and this is probably the most important indicator of readiness. As a former kindergarten teacher, I would say that these skills really made the most impact in overall learning throughout the year. And so I think that these skills tend to be, I guess the word is, not as thought of as the most important. We tend to hyper focus on like the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. But in reality, just working through emotions and knowing how to work through emotions is such a huge skill to be able to navigate as you're making new friends, entering into a new environment, and learning things that are hard, which is good and what is supposed to happen in kindergarten. But with these emotions, it can be challenging. So some of the skills that we're looking for is just being able to say goodbye to your parents at the door or in the car, and being able to separate with ease so that they're feeling secure. So they have that security and safety as they're entering into kindergarten. That's why meet the teacher nights are so important and open houses are so important. So your child can just see this new school, this new building, and this new person. So that's one thing that teachers are looking for. And they're also looking to see if they have just a foundation in making friendships. 5-year-olds are going to have are going to be navigating friendships differently, and it can be challenging, and but also that's all age appropriate. But just that idea that they can go up to a child and say like, "Hi, can I play?" If they want to. And then being able to pay attention to a task for short bits of time. So the minimum they're looking for is about 5 minutes. So being able to listen to directions and get enough information from the teacher so that they can complete the activity. Knowing your first name and your last name, and then also who your parents are, and just this general curiosity and excitement to learn, which most children are really eager and interested in what's going on around them. And so just wanting to dive into things. And then also independent skills is probably one of the bigger ones for sure, because you're looking at being able to tie your shoes, which they're learning at this age. But being able to at least put them on by themselves, get on a coat, be able to use the bathroom and wash their hands. So, teachers know that they are 5 and they're going to be working through these skills with them, but they also definitely want to be able to let your child demonstrate those independent skills as well. So some ideas are just simply labeling feelings. I see you're mad. I can tell you're mad because you are X, Y, and Z. And then also things like encouraging independent personal care routines. So letting them get dressed in the morning if it's not picture day, or even if it is. Or having them maybe put their dish up by the sink when they're done, or even if you have a stool and they can rinse it off, just giving them some basic, simple chores that helps them be able to take care of their environment and their materials. Trying mindfulness activities like taking deep breaths or maybe laying on their back and feeling their tummy go up and down as they're taking deep breaths. And then just giving choices when they're upset, maybe taking a break. Like, I can tell you're really mad right now. We cannot hit if that's what they're doing, or we cannot yell. Why don't we take a break or take some deep breaths? We can do those two things. And so giving them something they can do and then practicing that with them. And then there's also this idea of a calm down space. And a lot of classrooms will have this. It's a space where children can go to just take a deep breath or to find some calm or some quiet. The classroom can be very overwhelming, especially the first couple of weeks. And especially if you have a child who maybe is a little bit more shy or more introverted. I know I was that child and I would have appreciated a space like this in the classroom for sure, but you can recreate this space at home with a lot of ease. So here you can see, like in a little corner nook and by the stairs, they just put a pillow with some stuffed animals and blankets and some books and like an etch and sketch, but you can also put fidgets like I don't know, everyone has those poppy fidgets or like a water timer that like has that oil and water and you can watch it. You can even make your own sensory bottles. But just this idea where they can go when they're having these really big emotions. If you are interested to learn more about a cozy corner or creating one in your home, there is a link. I think this is a really great link just to help set one up. But then also you can contact me and we can talk through that and what that would look like in your own home. Okay, so we're going to dive into motor skills. These are your big motor skills and your small movements. So you're running, jumping, and then your handwriting. So with these, teachers are really looking for your fine motors, your fine muscles, your small muscles to be able to take a pencil and hold it and then use scissors. And they might not be exactly correctly in holding the scissors, but just having a basic concept of how to manipulate the scissors with your hands. You're also looking at copying shapes, especially straight lines, circles, X's, and plus signs. Those are really essential for writing letters. Those big lines going down and then those big curves with the circle. Those, if you think about each letter, you can kind of start seeing that every letter has like a line or some sort of curve in it. And sometimes they even have that plus. So trying to make sure that they're working on copying those types of shapes with you, and then just putting together smaller puzzles. With your bigger muscles, you're looking at running and jumping. And the jumping is with feet together. So taking a big jump with 2 feet together and then going up off the ground. And then also hopping on one foot. And then there's the climbing up and down the stairs and then bouncing balls and trying to catch them. They don't have to be efficient at that, but just having that movement to try to coordinate those hands and eyes together. So some great activities are really Play-Doh. I know you've probably heard this a lot of different places, but Play-Doh is magic when it comes to fine motor development. There's a lot of different ways to use Play-Doh. We even have like a 31 days of Play-Doh activity for families that they can look at. But one of the ways is just to roll and shape, make snowmen or make like snakes are really good because that's really engaging those muscles. But then also Play-Doh scissors are wonderful because it's an easy medium to cut and it's really safe. It's not as scary as like, here's the scissors, let's learn how to use them. So it's a great transition into using scissors. And then also with writing, it doesn't have to be with a pencil, it doesn't have to be tracing, and it doesn't even have to be with like paint on an easel. You can just use water with a paintbrush and go outside on the sidewalk and just practice making those shapes. Or you can do that with water on construction paper. It works just the same. And especially if it's like a color, you can see the water pop. So really exploring with making your shapes with different materials instead of just like tracing things on paper gives them different opportunities to use their muscles and their hand-eye coordination. And then also just like beading with pipe cleaners or making bracelets, or maybe like a monster with Play-Doh. You can bead parts of it and then stick it in the Play-Doh and sculpt something together. All that is really great. And then for your big muscles, you're looking at tossing things. So bean bags, you can put like a hula hoop in the middle of the living room on a rainy day and toss bean bags inside of it. You can play games like red light, green light. That is really great for body control and self-regulation as well, which goes back to the social emotional skills and being able to control your body in different ways. And then also just taking risks outside. Taking risk outside is probably one of the best ways to really engage that full body and practice those skills. And that looks like climbing high, running fast, balancing on maybe the ledge of a sidewalk and trying out those big muscle movements in ways that is sparking curiosity and understanding that like, oh, if I try this, my body can do it. But if I try this, oh, that's going to be a little bit harder. So we have a lot of information about risky play too, if you're interested in learning more. We're going to take a minute here and look at a couple TikToks. This one is about just creating an art cart at home. It's just having materials available and accessible for your child.
Having an art cart at home is a great way to let your kids create in their own time. All you need is a few of their favorite materials and you are all set.
So that's all it is, just putting things together and having materials so that they can access them easily. Sometimes, you might not want paint out all the time. You just put it away for a little bit and then you can have them bring it back out again when you're ready. So art carts are really great. You can even put like old stamps or envelopes in there and write letters to friends and family too. Okay, and this is risky play. This is one example of risky play. So that's one example of risky play. Again, some families aren't okay with going up and down the slide, but it actually helps stimulate a lot of that vestibular development, which is just the understanding of how my body works and how it works in relation to other things. So it is a great way if it's in a safe environment and you set up your ground rules. And the last area we're going to dive into is those cognitive skills. And these are your reading and your writing skills. So with these, I know a lot of times teachers are looking for being able to listen to stories and enjoying to listen to stories. They understand that books open a certain way, that you turn the pages left to right, that there's an up and a down. So just having that knowledge of the book and understanding how to use it is pretty much the foundation of what we're looking at in kindergarten. And then also recognizing some of your letters, especially the letters in your name. And then you have your familiar logos and signs. So they're able to look at things in their natural environment and say like, oh, those are Cheerios. And they know they're Cheerios because they have the box of Cheerios every day. So they're looking at signs. Oh, that's a stop sign. I know that's a stop sign because of its shape, but then also the letters look familiar to me too. So they're starting to associate symbols with written words. And then the idea of writing their name, but then the first step to that is being able to recognize their name in written form. So I always tell parents, especially my preschool parents, that letter identification always starts with the name because they're so proud of who they are. They're so proud of their name and they really want to share that with the world, and they're really proud of who they are. So starting with the name when it comes to letter identification, I think is the best place to start, especially with that first letter, and then moving on with all the other letters as well. And then go on to mom, go on to dad, grandma, grandpa, all your names. And those are ways just to get them interested in letters, as opposed to just like, this is A. A makes the A sound. And so it helps them just have a stake in why they're learning these letters. Understanding words and rhymes, and then also just connecting those letters to sounds, especially the first sound is pretty much the first start to that kindergarten readiness and reading. So like I know F makes the sound, and I'm looking for things like a frog or a fire truck. And so trying to look for things that start with that sound is a really great thing to start with. And before I dive into math, I just want to talk about some ideas with literacy. Reading together, I know you've heard it. It is so important. Another thing is to put their name on Post-it notes, and then they can find their name throughout the house. So maybe I put the letter F on one, and then I put the letter R on the other, and then my daughter's name's Freya, so that was what I would spell out. And then put it around the house, and then she would have to find all those letters, say them all, and then organize them into her name. So it's just like a hide and seek of letters, but then also it's working on your name and letter identification. Singing those rhyming songs, so important. I'm always singing those songs in the car as you're putting on shoes or getting ready, trying to think of words that rhyme with different word families like the at family or the og family for dog and frog. So thinking of those words and rhymes. And then another really fun activity that is really easy is just to go to the grocery store and have your child find maybe their favorite cereal. Let's say they love Cheerios, and you beforehand have the old box of Cheerios. You can cut out the little symbol of the Cheerios and give it to them, and then say like, let's go find this at the grocery store together so we can get more for home. So they go to the grocery store, you put them in the cereal aisle, and then they go find it. They can match it. They're looking at logos and they're matching those. So they're working on their letter identification. And then also you're giving them a task and they're following through with it. There's so much learning happening just with that simple task. So with math, we are looking at counting from 1 to 10 for sure. Just being able to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we're not skipping numbers in between. So working on counting every time they're jumping or showing you something, you can just count and making sure that they're hearing that and practicing that with you. They also are matching a number to a group of 5 or fewer items. So they're looking around and maybe they see 3 cars. Oh, I see 3 cars. And being able to say, this is 3 and this is a group of 3. They're also organizing objects and putting them in groups with colors and size, and then understanding that this group is more than this group. And having that language. That goes back to some of those language skills earlier, but math vocabulary is really important. So anytime you can talk about more, less, bigger, smaller, take away, or adding, those words are really important. And we do that naturally a lot of the times, but just being mindful of that is just a great way of getting children ready for kindergarten. And then also just arranging things in order and sequencing and making patterns. Those are all part of your kindergarten readiness. And this idea of taking away and adding, especially objects up to 5. So really just working with those smaller objects and not putting a lot in front of them because that can get overwhelming visually. So great ideas is just sorting and organizing your laundry and toys, Making sure if you're doing laundry, and even if you don't need to sort the laundry, just asking them to like put the blues with the blues and the reds with the reds, like it gives them something to do and they're practicing. And some kids like to do that kind of thing and to help out. So giving them those small little chores is really helpful. Practicing adding and taking away at snack, really easy just to have that conversation as you're eating together. And then also another great idea is just making a parking lot out of cardboard with toys for cars so that they can put the cars in and then they can park them, and maybe they park them in a pattern if you want to. And then this idea of dumping and pouring, that will give you a lot of opportunity to talk about math and use math language. So we're going to take just 1 minute here and look at a couple of videos. This one is an art and literacy activity. I love this one. This one is one of my favorites. I did this in the classroom all the time. We'll watch it and then I'll tell you a little bit more about it. So this one, the art and literacy one there, it uses something called the oil pastel. Crayola makes them, and they're really great because they're water resistant. If you go on Amazon or anywhere where you buy your art materials or your crafting materials, you just Google oil pastels and you'll be able to find those. And they're really fun. They can get a little messy. So if mess isn't your favorite, I would definitely take away the dark color oil pastels. But the white one is really great because it's almost like invisible ink. And then here's an example for math. Awesome. So that was just an example for math. If you haven't given your child a budget for maybe the dollar spot at Target or even the Dollar Tree, or any place where there's low cost options, Five and Below, I would really encourage you. I think that they are able to look at numbers and be able to do simple math and taking away. And it's really a great opportunity. So I just wanted to end today to just say that all children learn and develop differently and at their own pace. So just keep in mind that some will reach milestones slightly earlier or later than others. You might even see this with your own children if you have multiple children at home. They definitely, some will maybe be ready to be adding, and then others will be learning to ready to ride a bike sooner. And so you just have this like difference in how they develop. But it's our job just to provide experiences and then reach out to professionals if we have concerns. And I did want to share some tips for that if you do have concerns. You know, the first person we always tell people to go to is just talk to your doctor. But sometimes doctors only get a snapshot of your child in that moment. And so there are resources at the Center for Disease Control through the Learn the Signs Act Early, just with milestone lists. And there's an app there too that you can go. I always encourage families, if you do have concerns, to take some notes and bring those to your doctor, and then just advocate for your child. Ask for those developmental screenings if you do have a concern, or ask for referrals, or ask for clear next steps. I find this often with my daughter. A doctor will say, "Oh, I'll see you in 3 months." I'm like, "Okay, but what do I do? How do I introduce solids? How do I do this?" And so just asking for those clear next steps. If you do have concerns and want to move forward with evaluation, there are resources through First Steps at Pro Kids, and then also your public school system. That is where you're going to go if your child is age 3 or older. And if you have more questions about what that would look like, again, please feel free to ask. We do have 2 other workshops in this series. The next one is just about getting back into that school routine. It's going to be focused on just transitioning from summer to school. So if you have school agers who are older, this would still work for you. But if you have a child who is going into kindergarten for the first time, this might be a good workshop too, just to learn some tips and tricks. And then on September 20th, we're just talking about choosing the right kindergarten for your kindergartner, and that would be for your 2023 fall year. But if you do have questions, please let me know. Again, my email is jamiel@childcareanswers.org. We really appreciate you attending today, and hope you found at least a couple tips and tricks that you can try as you're preparing your child for kindergarten.